Mark Cyrus has a great question for you. He's a big fan. He says, "Why are you the best TV dad of all time?" You consider yourself a TV dad? A lot of our listeners think of you as like their TV dad for wrestling.
I don't know. Maybe so. Hmm. I don't consider myself a TV dad. TV dads are like Fred McMurray, My Three Sons, Dick Van Dyke Show. Who else? Who was a TV dad in Eight Is Enough?
Growing Pains,
Growing Pains, those guys.
Alan Thicke, I think, Carl Winslow,
Mm,
James
yeah, I
Elker
don't know.
pitches that one.
Coach Keith just woke up, and which is just right on time. Coach Keith, thanks for being around. Thanks for waking up. How the Raiders doing? Bill Cosby was another TV dad. Absolutely.
I don't know that we're supposed to talk about him anymore.
Oh, we're not.
No, I think all the rape has really affected his legacy.
Well, there's no question it's affected his legacy. No question. I'm not here to defend him, but he was a TV dad at one time.
Yeah. hmm
Yeah.
You know, our friend Michael Lawrence, friend of the show, great comedian who does wrestle roasts that you may have seen before. Karate Raider,
I
check
am
that
not.
out.
I'm not.
He posted something on Instagram over the weekend that I thought was a real wow moment. Remember the show Family Matters with the Urkel character?
Yeah.
So there was an episode towards the end of that season, on the very first season, where Carl Winslow, the cop dad, the father on the show,
Mm-hmm.
has a run in with Buddy Goodrich, who is a big stand up comedian turned host of or star of the number one television show where he plays a wealthy doctor who lives in an affluent neighborhood and fancy home, has adopted children, and he always corrects their shenanigans with some great fatherly advice, aka Bill Cosby with a different name.
Mm-hmm.
And they expose in this episode of Family Matters what a grade A asshole Buddy Goodrich is in real life. And it's nothing like what you see on TV. And that aired in 1989 on television. So
Really?
at the time, The Cosby Show was clearly the number one show in all of television.
Mm-hmm.
And Family Matters was probably seen like a poor man's Cosby Show. Because
Sure.
here it is, it's another startup sitcom about a black family in America
Mm-hmm.
in a similar area or whatever, except a different experience, more working class instead of,
Right.
upper class or whatever. But I just thought it was interesting that this is years before we all found out what an asshole that Bill Cosby was. But
Mm-hmm.
somebody knew back in 1989.
Wow. Did they ever? Wow.
It was
That's
great. So I found it on Hulu. It's on there. I watched it. It's only 20 minutes without the commercials. It's great. Man, we're talking over a hell of a match here. If you were a fan of the cruiserweight division or of Eddie Guerrero or Chris Benoit or all three, this is pretty awesome stuff right here that we're watching.
yeah. And I
Oh,
don't think we've seen many dives out of the ring either.
that's fair.
Yeah. It's not that I don't like dives out of the ring. I think they have a place. I just think sometimes there are too many.
James Ilker actually has a question about that. Were you an immediate fan of cruiserweight stuff, or did it have to grow on you like so many of the old school motherfuckers from the 80s?
No, I loved it. Did old school motherfuckers not like the cruiserweight stuff? Because to me, that was the closest thing to, I don't know. I just thought it was great competitive wrestling, like we're seeing right now, right? It was.
Well, I mean, I've heard Scott Demore say something along the lines of Lou Thez thought that Harley Race was killing the business. And then Harley Race thought that, Ric Flair was killing the business.
Yeah.
And then Ric Flair thought that Shawn Michaels was killing the business. And Shawn Michaels, so, it's always everybody's pushing back on this evolution.
Right.
And there's a lot of fans on their feet, and they have no idea in Albany, Georgia, who Chris Benoit is, but they know when they saw a damn good performance.
Exactly.
What a match for Malenko and Guerrero, and it's on free TV.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see Mean Gene Okerlund coming up here in a minute. He's going to be interviewing the Giant and Kevin Sullivan.
Well, there's a dive or a top rope plancha, I think you call it. I don't know what. I'm not so sure.
By the way, in this, I know we're not going to be able to track it thanks to WWE not wanting us to promote their Peacock service. But if we could track it, you would hear the Giant, who appears to be nervous for his first live promo, warn Hulk Hogan that he plans to push him off the roof in their monster truck match.
Hmm.
And of course, we know it was actually the Giant who got pushed off the roof.
Yes, into the Detroit River, where
Yeah.
he comes back alive and
And
dry.
dry.
Mhm.
Dry's always the best part, isn't it?
Yes, that's the best part. He got pushed off in the river, but he's dry. At least spray the hair down and put some seaweed in it or something, or moss or something. How about a fish flapping in his ear? I don't know.
Gray asked us over on social media, how good looking does Tony think Johnny B. Bad was?
Good looking.
Yep. Handsome.
He is a very handsome man. He looked like Little Richard. He really did. And I was there when Dusty even looked at me, said, "That's Little Richard. That's what we're going to make him." Yeah.
Timothy Regal wants to know, what does Tony think Johnny B. Bad's future would have been in WCW? The gimmick feels like it wouldn't have fit in an NWO era.
Oh, you can make anything work. Even if you think it doesn't feel right, if you got a guy that's going to put the effort into it and you've got bookers that are going to put the effort into it, you can make anything work. You know, you could have had him join the NWO, but still not want to dress in the black and white. And then they, eventually beat him up, throw him out, and he gets his retribution. You could, I mean, I don't think, I think as a fan, you're wrong to say, that doesn't feel like it's going to work, because you can do anything. You can. It's like movies. It's like the Marvel movies, right? They killed off Iron Man, but they can bring him back. You just write it in. So I think as wrestling fans, I think you're wrong. And even, you idiots on Twitter, you're wrong to think that that's never going to work. Again, like you said earlier a couple times, Conrad, never say never in wrestling. Anything can work. Would you take a look
What
at
do
Short?
you think he's saying here? We got Mean Gene right in the middle.
Okay.
He's about to put the microphone in front of the face of Kevin
Mhm.
Sullivan. What do you think
Yeah.
Kevin's saying here?
Yeah. Well, Kevin's saying once the microphone gets in front of his face, he said, let me, okay. Gene's pointing at him right now. I may be behind. He said, let me tell you something, Mean Gene, about Tony Schiavone. Okay. My daughter the other day asked me, what do you call Tony Schiavone in real life? I'd call him a guinea, and I call him the human question mark, because ever since he had that neck surgery, his head has been over like he's in a question mark. So that's what he is, a human question mark. And you may want to ask me, what are these marks on my forehead? I don't know what these marks are on my forehead. I just come up with some shit. So I came up with a couple of lightning bolts, put them right on top of my forehead, right between my eyes. And then I got these don't look at the Giant, look at me. Then I put these lightning bolts on this robe. And I thought they really should be the Red Sox colors, red and navy blue. But I went ahead with Hulk Hogan's colors because that's what this is all about. And people are wondering to me, Kevin, as a booker, why would you book it this way? Why would you book the Dungeon of Doom this way? Why not, Mean Gene? We have the resources. And now let's take a look at some footage from when we decided to paint the face of Brutus the Barber Beefcake and call him the Yes No Man, or whatever it was we called him. As you can see, I've got right now on a skirt, and I'm going to shave Hulk Hogan's mustache on the sides. Okay? I'm going to give him no mustache. This has been part of Hulk Hogan's legacy, the mustache. As you can see, he's like a horse. That's because he was afraid that I was going to cut his lip. But here before me, we have the Giant. Look how big he is. You know what, Mean Gene? I bet you somewhere in that singlet, there's a roll of bologna. Well, you're right, Kevin Sullivan, Master Taskmaster. I'm going to take Hulk Hogan First of all, I got to learn how to drive a truck. But once I learn how to drive a truck, maybe Medusa will teach me how to drive a truck. I'll drive a truck around circles, and I will run Hulk Hogan off into the top of Cobo Hall, the Joe Louis Arena. And then I'll come back. And then I'll come back, and I'll go to the ring, and I'll beat up Muhammad Ali. That's exactly right, Gene. And I'll put this big hand over your face, and I'll hold it there. Well, I've had my face in many places, but never the Giant's hand before. Eric Bischoff, that's all from the Taskmaster. And you son of a bitch, let's go back to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo, Mr. Schiavone. Bravo. I can't believe this is real, but I think your boy, Disco Inferno, is coming out next.
Okay.
We
Hey,
actually
I gotta go take a shit. Will you tell me how it goes? Okay.
Well, DJ Turnup wanted to know who had a better stunner, Disco Inferno or Mikey Whipwreck?
Well, Mikey Whipwreck had a better stunner, number one, and Disco Inferno didn't do anything correctly, nothing. So
Never saw one thing you liked of Disco.
no, not one thing. Machine versus machine, the Hulkster's machine, the Giants machine. If you're watching with us, it's Halloween Havoc. Don't you think that was the coolest name we had of all of our stuff?
You know what's interesting? I think you and I sort of always thought Starrcade was like the WCW WrestleMania. That's the way I felt as a kid. So, like, when you got to December, I just knew, okay, this is going to be the big WCW pay-per-view. Starrcade is the WrestleMania equivalent. And
Right.
Bischoff has said from day one, no, it was Halloween Havoc. It was always
Yeah.
Halloween Havoc the whole time I was there.
Right.
And with the benefit of hindsight, Halloween Havoc did feel like it had better cards a lot of times.
Yeah. And the reason it was for Eric was that Jim Herd and his people and his completely fucked up Starrcade. They completely fucked it. And Starrcade should have been in November. Starrcade should not have been a fucking battle bowl. And they just they made it shit, and it couldn't and that's what Eric remembers, and it never recovered from that. So